of the things you might want to consider as part of looking at what your staff want to do is whether or not your staff feel ready to come back to the office as well, whether they feel that there's a need to do that, or whether they would prefer to work at home. Now, as Phil said, the advice from the government still is if you can work from home, work from home. But it could present some mental health issues for some of your staff. It could present some physical issues. So you might want to do a survey just to see how your staff are feeling. And with that in mind, if you've got Microsoft 365, which a lot of businesses have, then there is a tool in there called Forms. And Forms allows you to design forms for surveys and all sorts of other requirements too. So we thought it might be useful to show you how to create a form for a survey using Microsoft Forms. So I'm going to hand over now to Si, who is going to take you through that.
Excellent. Thank you, Tracy. I'm going to share my screen with you and let's take a look at Microsoft Forms. And as Tracy has said, this is included as part of your Office 365 subscription. If you want to get there quickly, just type in forms.office.com and you'll be presented with this page, which has no forms on it at the moment. There are two things. We can do a form or a quiz. I'm not going to cover quizzes, but a quiz, actually you can say in a quiz the expected answer in a response, and then you can automatically total up the number of successful answers and feed back to the person. So very useful if you're doing training or if you've got somewhere where you're expecting a result and you want to assess that. But let's focus just on a basic form for doing exactly what Tracy said, which is talking about returning to work. So the first thing I'm going to do in my form is give it a title, returning to work. I hasten to add that in this example, these are not necessarily the questions you would want to ask. They're just my suggestions for exposing the functionality within Forms. So when I do a form, I can give it a title, I can give it an image, and I can give it a description. And so that is now the title of this form. If I click on Add New, what I can now do is start to create questions and indeed sections that can host questions. So what I'm going to do first of all is create a section, and I'm going to call this to work. And I'm going to add a new question within my form. There are several options here. We can do a multiple choice. We can do text, which just asks the person to write a response. We can do ratings. We can ask them for a date. So for example, what's their date of birth, or what date did they start with the organization? We can do rankings. We can do a Likert, and I'm going to start with Likert just because it's one of the complicated ones. So it'll give you a bit of an insight into how that works. You can upload documents. So with a file upload, you can do a promoter score. So out of 10, what did I think? As we've done just before, we can create a section. So if I create a Likert, and a Likert is basically where we've got multiple statements, and across the top, I'm saying, what are the answers to that? So, for example, I might say how I feel about my environment. And at the top here, I want to start by saying strongly disagree, agree. I'm going to do disagree even. Don't mind. Agree. Strongly agree. So I've got my options across the top of how I want people to respond to the statements. And my statement might be, I'm happy working from home. So let's understand how our staff feel about working from home. I feel safe in the office. Add another statement here. I feel safe traveling to work. And so that's now giving people the opportunity to tell you how they feel about those different areas that I've described. Now I want to add another question in here, and I'm going to give them a choice. And my question is going to be, do I want to come back to the office? And I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say maybe. Now, actually, I'm going to put maybe in the middle. And I'm going to come back to this. I want to add a new section. So I'm going to put a new section in here where I've said my response is yes or maybe. And I'm going to add a new section underneath that where my response is no. And then I'm going to add a new section called the end. So what I've got now, I've got my main section asking about returning to work. And I've then got two other sections about responding to yes or maybe or no. And then I've got my end section. And in this, do I want to come back to the office? What I'm now going to do is I'm going to say, let's add branching. And branching allows me to choose which section they go to depending on their response. So if they say yes, then I want them to go to yes or maybe. If they say maybe, I want them to go to yes or maybe. And if they say no, I want them to go to no. So that's a very simple process to just say, where am I going to go next? And after they've filled out section 2 of yes or maybe, I want to then go to the end. And after they've filled out no, I want them to go to the end. So that's just a very simple way of saying, do you want them to fill out all the sections or do you want them to be more creative than that? So once we've done that branching, we can go back to our standard document. I just want to change these and make these required. So that means they have to fill out a response to the question. I'm going to make that required. I'm not going to give them multiple answers. So you could have lists where they could select more than one choice. I'm not going to allow that. And then I want to look more at these sections. So if they say yes or maybe, what I want to do is ask them a question. So my question is going to be, is there anything we can do to help you transition back to work? Now, because this is an open question, I've asked this question as a text question, and I'm going to say it's a long answer because people may want to say more than a few things in response to that. And if they've said no, let's ask a text question that just says, do you need any support, further support in working from home? And again, the opportunity to give a long answer. Let's just say that that's required, and let's just say that's required. And there you go. And at the end, let's just ask them to give us a rating on, did you like this questionnaire? Maybe did you find it helpful? And it is simple as that. That is us. We've created a form. So at this section, we've got the questions, and then on the right tab, we've got responses. So as people fill out the form, it gets responded to here, and you can see a summary of the responses that you get. So I've finished my form. What I now need to do is get that form out there, and there are a couple of ways I can do that. So I can share a link to that form. So if I copy that link and open a new tab and go to that link, you can see that takes me straight into the form and asks me to fill out the form that I've just created. I can also, and you know how excited I get about Teams, but I can also go into Teams, and I can, within the team, let's set up here, I can click on the plus on the tabs for a channel, and I can say forms, and I can say here that I want to use an existing form. I'm going to select returning to work, and I'm going to save that. And notice under here it says collect responses. And now I get the form that I've just worked on within my team that anybody in my organization can now go to and start filling out. So let's just fill this form out. So you can see with the Leica, you can just simply select the options you want. If I go to agree, then it takes away from strongly disagree and goes to agree. Do you want to come back to the office? Maybe. And is there anything we can notice? Because I've said maybe, it's gone to this section. Is there anything we can do to help you get back to work? No, I'm good, thanks. Go to next, and it'll take me to the end. Did you find this helpful? I think, yeah, it was all right. And I can then submit that, and it says, thanks, your response is submitted. Now, what I want to also show you, just lastly, I'm going to add this form again to the team. Now, you wouldn't necessarily do this with returning to work form, but if I select the same form, I can also say show results. So if you were doing a departmental survey that you wanted everyone to see the results of, they can click on that tab and they can see the results that they received back. Now, this form I've done as a form for in the office, but you can, with settings, change it to be a public form, so you can send that link to anyone. You can put it on your website. You can take a QR code and put it on your labels or any marketing material, so that anybody can engage with that form in any way they like. So there's different ways with forms. It's very flexible, and it just gives you a really quick way of getting information from your employees and from your customers.